Good afternoon, everyone. Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women welcome you to the launch of the Action Research entitled Addressing Gender Norms on Unpaid Work and Breadwinning in the Time of COVID-19. I know you're done with your naps, so we have to be all awake. Okay, 100% full attention on screen and your audio's full blast. My name is Jada, and I will be your host for this online event. Our speaker lined up for today includes Senator Sunny Angara, Oxfam Pilipinas, Investing in Women, the Department of Labor and Employment, and the Philippine Commission on Women. We'd like to acknowledge our friends from the media who are in the Zoom call with us. Hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this beautiful Tuesday. Okay, we're not giving away tacos because it's a Tuesday, but thank you so much. We really appreciate that you are with us here this afternoon. And everyone, thank you so much for taking time, turning on your videos and your audios and logging on today. Very glad, very happy to have all of you with us today. So let's begin, and let's begin by watching this video. Every day, people spend time on chores like cleaning, cooking, doing laundry, caring for children, the sick, and the elderly. These activities are called unpaid care and domestic work. Responsibility for unpaid care and domestic work worldwide falls disproportionately on women and girls. They are expected to take on household chores even while contributing to the household income. This double burden results in fewer options for women. Often, they turn to low-paying, informal, or home-based work in order to prioritize the assigned tasks at home. Who should be responsible for unpaid care and domestic work?
Gumagawa dapat ng gawaing bahay ay mga babae. Katulad ko, kahit na nag-aalaga ko ng anak ko, ako pa rin ang gumagawa ng lahat. Naglalaba, nagsasaing, naglilinis. Dahil po, syempre bilang isang ina, ako dapat ang gagawa nun. Dahil ang asawa ko, siyang nagtatrabaho.
Para sa akin, yung gumagawa dapat ng gawain bahay is yung asawa, yung babae. Bakit? Kasi dapat, para sa akin, yung lalaki talaga dapat yung totally kumakayod kasi yun naman talaga yung parang nakasanayan natin dito na tradisyon, di ba?
Para sa akin, ang dapat gumagawa ng gawaing bahay is yung babae. Dahil sila yung ilaw ng tahanan, kumbaga sila yung sign sa mga gawaing bahay, sa mga paglilinis, sa mga pagluluto. Kasi yung mister mo, siya yung nagtatrabaho para sa pamilya.
Sa aking palagay, ang mga gumagawa po ng gawaing bahay is babae po talaga. Kasi sila po ang katuwang ng mga magulang natin sa bahay. Tayo pong mga lalaki ay nagtatrabaho ng mga gawain pang lalaki po.
Pag babae po kasi, matik na po kasi siya pagdating sa society. Kasi po pag babae, kailangan po talaga sa gawaing bahay siya. So, responsibility niya po talaga na maglinis, magluto, or mag-alaga po ng bahay. Pero para sa akin po, kailangan din po, kapag available po yung lalaki, kailangan po tumulong din po siya sa gawaing bahay. Kasi not all the time naman po kasi sa panahon po ngayon, pati po yung babae, nagtatrabaho na din po.
Yung gawaing bahay po, magaan lang para sa babae, kayang-kaya ng babae. Kasi yung lalaki para yun sa mga pang mabigat ang trabaho.
Para sa akin, pareho dapat mag-asawa ang gumagawa ng gawaing bahay. Kasi sa panahon ngayon, parehong mag-asawa na ang nagtatrabaho para sa pamilya.
Research conducted during the first year of the COVID pandemic showed Filipino women spent 13 hours a day on unpaid care work, while men spent 8 hours a day. More than half, or 7 out of the 13 hours spent by women on care work, involves multitasking or juggling at least 2 activities at the same time.
Dito po sa Pilipinas at sa marami pang bansa, ang responsibilidad ng gawaing bahay ay mas inaasa sa mga babae. Dapat itong bigyang pansin lalo na't mas naging mahirap ang unpaid care and domestic work para sa mga kababaihan ngayong may pandemic. In the face of communities where we work, unpaid care and domestic work is often heavy, inefficient, and unequally distributed. Providing care falls under the shoulder of women and girls, limiting their time to learn, to earn, and to take part in political and social activities of their choice. Care work is essential for personal well-being and for maintaining society's economic growth. While interest in assessing care work has increased, there remains a lack of understanding of the full spectrum of valuing women's work, especially unpaid care and domestic work.
Now, the action research we're launching today is one of the key components of the campaign, addressing gender norms in COVID-19, jointly initiated by Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women. The COVID-19 pandemic triggered a crisis in health and the economy. What were the pandemic implications on gender norms in the Philippines? And a whole lot more. That's what we will shed light on today. Now, to open the conversation, we are pleased to have with us the Senior Manager for Programs and Partnerships of Oxfam Pilipinas, Maria Teresa Nina Espinola Abogado. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, DJ Jada. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for gracing us with your time this afternoon. With great pleasure, it is our honor to welcome you on the launch of the action research on addressing gender norms on unpaid care and breadwinning in the time of COVID-19. This event is organized by Oxfam together with OCI, with support from Investing in Women under the initiative of the Australian government, to present the key results and recommendations derived from the action research. Now, before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the presence of our honorable and distinguished guests who will share their messages in a while, namely Senator Edgardo Angara, Philippine Commission Women Deputy Director Christine Balmes, Attorney Maria Runette, Salve Barredo Campo from the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board of the Department of Labor from Region 8, and last but not the least, Ms. Samina Nasir, Investing in Women Directress. We're also joined today by our guests and speakers from the BPO industry, whom we will meet sooner. And with much gratitude, we share our heartfelt thanks to all participants from BPO employees and associations, including industries, WAGI, our research partner and consultant, and other professionals who are here with us today. The action research we're about to learn is a baseline study designed to surface gender norms and narratives of unpaid care work, women breadwinning among urban millennials in the BPO sector, and their stories of coping at the height of COVID-19 pandemic. The BPO sector was chosen as the focus of this research because they have been dubbed as the female-friendly workforce by the global industry, where 71% of its total workforce are women. Thus, this study also seeks to promote an evidence-based campaign to kickstart discussion with key decision makers in the workplace, with the national policy makers, towards breaking gender norms affecting care work in the light and aspiration of creating a just, gender fair, and equal world. This study will also underscore the importance of addressing unpaid care gender norms, focused on 5 Rs: recognition, reduction, redistribution, representation, and reward, which will be detailed out later. As you will learn more on the key recommendations of the study, may this be a constant reminder of a much-needed support to recognize women's human rights to achieve their aspiration in economic empowerment. And as we put gender justice at the core of our intent, may we put women at the heart of everything we do in pursuit of a sustainable world and equal future. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Miss Nina. And we will see her again later on. She says there, if you have questions, you can send her questions through our chat box. Okay, our next speaker has authored over 200 laws in a span of almost two decades. As a legislator, he is one of the co-authors of the Senate version of the Magna Carta of Women, expanded maternity leave. I will be forever grateful. Let's give a warm welcome to Senator Sonny Angara and watch this video he has prepared for us.
Greetings to the participants of today's forum on a very timely and important topic. We thank Oxfam Philippines for inviting us to deliver some remarks. I think in the Philippines, whether wittingly or unwittingly, we had some structures, legal structures, laws which militate against women. And I remember back when I was a congressman, we passed a law to repeal the night work prohibition on women. And this was originally intentioned, or the intention was to protect women, but in the end, it militated against women because it prevented them from working at night, and they were deprived of opportunities in the BPO industry. So we're happy we were able to repeal that, and I think if we examine some of our laws, we won't be surprised to find some similar structures. I think worldwide it is a problem how to recognize and give value to the enormous and immense value that women contribute by working at home and taking care of our children and our families. We've yet to see a metric that accurately and fairly measures the value that it truly brings to our lives. So just like GDP is a human construct, well, perhaps we could also find something to accurately measure what women do. And of course, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we can just look towards best practices in different countries. So hopefully, besides asking the right questions, we can also come up with solutions in today's forum. So once again, thank you. Thank you to the BPOs sponsoring. Thank you to the Embassy of Australia and to Oxfam Philippines.
Thank you so much, Senator Angara. Now, did you know the idea that men should be the sole breadwinner and women should be the caregiver is still a common mindset in the Philippines? A baseline study commissioned by Oxfam shows that for male respondents, 6 out of 10 said men should be the primary breadwinner. When it comes to childcare, 3 out of 10 women said they did childcare alone. 5 out of 10 said that they share childcare responsibilities with helpers or other family members. The action research is a follow-up to the baseline study. Here to present the latest findings is the Monitoring, Evaluation, Learning, and Social Accountability Manager of Oxfam Pilipinas. Good afternoon, Sir Randy. Take it away.
Thank you, Jada. Good afternoon. On behalf of the Oxfam Pilipinas project team and our campaign partners, I'll be sharing with you the results of our baseline research addressing gender norms on unpaid care work and breadwinning in the time of COVID-19. So hope you can now see the slide, the presentation. So next slide, please. Okay, as community quarantines and lockdowns limited people's movement and forced families to stay at home during the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for care and domestic work also increased significantly. Traditionally borne by women and girls, such work, however, remained unaccounted for, unpaid, and largely ignored in the government's pandemic response. Oxfam Pilipinas, with support from Investing in Women, commissioned WAGI to conduct a baseline study among young workers within the BPO sector to inform the design of its campaign for influencing norms and policy. Special thanks go to Bien, Task Us, Teleperformance, Convergys, TSA, ICOR, and LCTC, who facilitated the survey among target respondents. To Mandeep Kaur Ranu, who helped us in editing and finalizing the baseline research report. Next slide, please. The study aimed to surface gendered norms and narratives around unpaid care work and breadwinning during the pandemic among young people aged 23 to 38 who have worked in BPO firms during the past 2 years. On the other hand, it also aimed to look into so-called positive deviants who have challenged these gendered norms and stories, reported more shared care work and breadwinning, and framed their practices as an adaptive response to the new normal. Finally, the study hoped to generate insights and recommendations for Oxfam's campaign. Next slide. From August to September 2021, the baseline study reached a total of 232 survey respondents, mostly living and working in Metro Manila, female and unpartnered. All may be considered as millennials or those born between 1981 and 1996. All survey respondents were full-time BPO employees working from 30 to 100 hours a week. Average gross income was around 40,500 pesos. And in addition to our survey, 4 focus groups reached a total of 17 participants, with 3 LGBTQs, 6 females, 6 males, and 2 single-headed households as participants. All were from NCR and nearby provinces, except one from Cebu. Next slide, please. So part 1 of our findings focuses on norms around care work in the household. At the time of the data gathering, almost half or around 40% of survey respondents indicated that household chores were being either with partners or other household members. This was also the case for more than half or 51% of the female respondents. Another 21% the female respondents said that most of the remaining 28% reported doing most care and domestic work themselves. Next slide, please. In contrast, when asked who made the most contribution to care work before the pandemic, there was an almost equal proportion of female and male respondents, about 3/4 or 75%, who said that they did. So comparing with the results shown in the previous slide, which referred to the situation during the pandemic, there seemed to be some shift towards more equal sharing of care work at home. Note, however, that the survey posed 2 different questions to get at the 2 data sets. The first one offering options referring to shared care work, while the second one asked them to compare their contribution against that of other actors. Next slide, please. Going back to the situation during the pandemic, buying food and other supplies like medicines was seen to be the most problematic care task, followed by cleaning or maintaining good hygiene and childcare, including supporting homeschooling. Thus, we see here some tasks related to mobility restrictions and new demands like preventing infection and supervising children's schoolwork, displacing the more traditional problematic tasks prior to the pandemic, like doing laundry and cooking. FGD results highlighted more of these changes in relation to care work at home. Loss of jobs, especially among males, but also among LGBTQs, pushed them to take on more care tasks through, although temporary at times, or until they got new jobs. Women often took on the task of ensuring observance of health and safety protocols. Next slide. Still drawing from the focus group discussion results, particularly with the all-male group, this slide shows that while men often took on roles or tasks that have been traditionally assigned to them, like doing repairs or heavy lifting, there were efforts in some cases to break from the mold and distribute housework not according to preset notions of chores that are for women and for men. Apart from promoting individual responsibility and teaching children gender equality, male FGD participants also saw in shared care work an opportunity to enhance family relationships. Next slide, please. So going back to the survey results, around 42% of 232 respondents said that childcare was being shared equally with partners and other household members. We had a slightly bigger percentage for females, around 45%. 20% of the female respondents said that most of the childcare were done by other people at home, including paid domestic workers. About a fourth, or 26%, reported doing most of the childcare. Next slide, please. Further exploring their views of gender roles around childcare, respondents were also asked to react to some statements like this one. Childcare should be more of a woman's responsibility. More than half, or around 55% of total respondents, did not agree. A bigger proportion of male respondents, 63%, compared with 52% for the female respondents, indicated disagreement with the proposition. Almost half, or 4 out of 9 non-binary respondents, also did not agree with the statement. Next slide, please. So instead of looking into their views on what should not be, this statement focuses on the respondents' beliefs about what the situation or practice is in other households in terms of childcare. Around 14% of total respondents did not agree that women take on more childcare responsibilities in other households. Compare this with our previous data set, which showed that 42% said they shared childcare equally with other household members. It would seem that more respondents believe that shared childcare is not as widely practiced, or that their practice goes against the norm. Finally, this third statement looks into the respondents' views about the strength of social norms around care work, particularly childcare. More than half, or 66%, of our total respondents did not agree that people around them would disapprove if their partners started to share or take on childcare responsibilities with them. Next slide, please. So overall, close to 9 of 10 of our millennial respondents in the BPO sector said they were satisfied with the current division of tasks within the household, and that they were able to help in house chores when asked. Around 8 out of 10 indicated they wanted to help or participate more in housework and childcare responsibilities. The next part of our research findings focuses on norms around breadwinning. Asked to react to the normative statement, earning the family's income should be more of a man's responsibility, 63% of total respondents did not agree, with more female respondents disagreeing, 70% compared to just 57% of male respondents. 3 out of 9 non-binary respondents also disagreed with this statement. Looking at our FGD results, outside of the more traditional views, which held that women should opt to stay at home if men could take on paid work, some female FGD participants pointed to how their breadwinning provided a sense of fulfillment. When they were promoted, they were able to make a difference or serve as good role models for their children. Across all of the focus groups, participants stressed the need to discuss and agree on women taking on paid work to avoid conflicts. Next slide, please. This slide shows how gendered views could still persist among millennials in relation to paid work roles. Asked to react to the statement, there are some work roles that are better suited to men and some to women. 50% of our survey respondents agreed with the statement. Note, however, that a small percentage, around 10%, strongly agreed, and a bigger proportion, around 37%, simply agreed, which could point to a group that could still be swayed by our awareness raising on this issue. Next slide, please. This slide shows some of our deviant views on the matter from our FGD participants, from 1 male and 2 female focus group participants. They asserted that gendered paid work roles is out of date, that qualifications and skills are more proper basis for hiring rather than gender, and that having a more balanced workforce in terms of gender could have more positive impact in terms of having more diverse inputs from employees. Next slide. Here are samples of the more common views on gendered paid work roles from the focus groups. So jobs requiring more physical strength and technical knowledge or skills are more suited to men, and work that need the so-called feminine touch or which require more people skills like marketing are best suited for women. Other related narratives from the FGDs on gender norms and practices of the workplace. That women had to prove themselves to be considered for positions traditionally reserved for men, and women having to seek their partner's approval, especially when seeking employment in male-dominated workplaces. On the more positive side, focus group participants also noted practices of some BPO firms that encourage more women to apply for jobs or positions commonly taken on by men. The last part of our findings focused on norms and situations in the workplace. We checked with our survey respondents if they have recently suffered any harm or injury in performing care work, especially in the context of the remote or hybrid working arrangements due to the pandemic. 71% said they did not experience any injury, though 14% reported sick at times. FGD participants also noted the impact of remote work on their mental health and product, citing the challenge of having to deal with too many distractions at home and managing stress. The more common ways of dealing with challenges of remote work among survey respondents included working around a very strict schedule, ensuring that family members follow health protocols to help prevent infection, and spending more time with social media and entertainment platforms. FGD participants reported on efforts of some employers to provide support to their employees, coping strategies, including provision of transportation allowance and access to emergency funds. This statement checks on our respondents' experience of gender discrimination in the workplace. Only around 11% of our statement, and this included 2 out of 9 LGBTQ respondents who strongly agreed. 63% of female respondents did not agree, with 23% strongly disagreeing. The 2 statements shown in this slide check on actions following any experience of discrimination or harassment in the workplace. More than half, or 52% of survey respondents said that they never had any experience of reporting such incidents, and 13% indicated reporting occasionally or often. Close to half, or 49%, said that those who experienced discrimination subsequently received support in the form of counseling, medical and legal services, and other benefits or assistance from their HR units. 84% of our survey respondents were satisfied or very satisfied with the benefits that they are receiving from their firms. Though when asked what benefits they would like to have more of, 78% said they wanted more allowances, 64% said they needed more health benefits, and more than half, or 51%, said they wanted work from home options. 81% of respondents supported longer paternity leave benefits. Finally, around 77% of our survey respondents validated that the shift to remote or mixed work arrangements was the one key important change that happened to their work situation during the pandemic. And about 3/4 of respondents said that they were satisfied with how their employers handled the pandemic. Moving forward, with Oxfam Pilipinas and partners campaign and influencing efforts, and drawing from our sense-making around the research results, we would like to focus on the following calls and actions. One, promoting more diversity in terms of hiring staff by reviewing and integrating more gender equality provisions in job descriptions. Two, working towards better representation of women in leadership and managerial positions. And three, mainstreaming unpaid care and domestic work in gender equality programs within the workplace, focusing particularly on reducing drudgery of time and labor-intensive tasks, and promoting redistribution of care work through more flexible working hours and expanded paternity leaves. And that ends our sharing on our baseline study results. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Sir Randy Cabases. I hope you guys took notes because there will be a contest later on. I'm kidding. There's going to be a quiz. You will be graded. But let's move on. Thank you so much once again, Sir Randy. Now, if you have any thoughts, reactions, or questions about the information presented by Sir Randy, we invite you to leave a comment in the chat box so we can address it further in the open forum later on. Now, here's another presentation that we will definitely need to take down notes for. To discuss labor policies that support women, let's welcome our speaker from the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board of Region 8, Attorney Maria Ronette Salve Barreda Campo.
Hello,
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, good afternoon, Ms. Jada. How are you? Kumusta po?
I'm good. Kayo po, kumusta po?
Eto po, I'm somewhere in Region 8. Nadala po tayo ng trabaho. We had a field seminar somewhere in Region 8 right now. So, apologies in advance po kung medyo mahina yung internet. So, as I go through my presentation, baka I need to stop po the video. Medyo mahina po yung internet dito. Okay lang po ba?
Take it away, attorney.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. I'll reopen my file po. By the way, while I'm opening my slides, good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Miss Leia, and to the Oxfam family. So thank you for inviting me again. So, again, I would like to reintroduce lang po yung opisina namin, the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board 8. So ako po ay nandito ngayon sa Region 8, sa Eastern Visayas. So let me share to you what I observed based on the result of the research or the study. And also, let me share to you what are the labor policies na meron po tayo which may address the concerns and the sentiments expressed po doon sa ating study. By the way, before I forget, I'm with the BPO employees because once in my life, nagtrabaho po ako sa BPO. After I graduated from college, fresh from college, I worked po sa Cebu. So talagang naiintindihan po kung ano yung pinagdadaanan ng ating mga workers sa BPO industry, especially ang ating working moms, single moms, and those who are married. So this afternoon, based po doon sa ating research, parang if we will summarize what the research tells us, or the study, what it tells us is that because of the pandemic, gender norms in the workplace and even in our homes, nag-iba po. And we have observed changes in work arrangement because of the pandemic. So since 10 minutes lang po, let's go right away to labor policies. As to benefits po for our workers, we can categorize or simply classify them to monetary and non-monetary. Andyan po ang ating wages. We have the concept of minimum wage, as we all know. Yung wages po natin is set at the regional level. But I'm sure those working in the BPO, wala po tayong problema sa minimum wage because mas mataas po ang nare-receive nating pasahod compared sa other industries. As to working conditions, also the labor code provides that there are certain working conditions na dapat po ibigay para sa ating workers. A very good example of that is ang ating po mga break and meal periods. So as expressed the last time po na nagkita-kita tayo, yung concerns ng ating BPO workers are their break time and meal time. So meron po tayong 60 minutes rather, or 1 hour for a shift. So need po natin po yung i-take. And if the worker does not take the 60-minute po na lunch or meal time niya, then dapat po bayad po ang ating worker during that time. That's aside from the quick breaks po ng ating workers. Let's go to social welfare benefits. So as to SSS, everyone should be a member of the social security system because we know na dito po papasok yung entitlement natin to so many social welfare benefits, especially going to the leave benefits, the maternity leave po. So sana po lahat tayo ay SS members. So for those members ng SS, female members, we are entitled po sa ating expanded maternity leave benefit na 105 days. Plus, if you are a solo parent, remember, you are entitled to an additional 15 days po na leave. Although there is this parang may ongoing discussion on probably sana ma-increase naman yung paternity leave benefits because ang layo, 105 days for the mother, and for the father, that's 7 days lang. So what does it say about the child rearing function or responsibility or duty? It's like nakaano pa talaga sa shoulders ng mother because 105 days for the nanay and for the father, 7 days lang po. Although under the expanded maternity leave law, we can also transfer additional 7 days po para sa ating father. On occupational safety and health, it was mentioned in the study na meron pong cases of injury, accident, and illness. So our government has been very active in promoting occupational safety and the health of workers. In fact, as early as 2008, the department issued a separate issuance, particularly po for call center industry. So ito pong policy guidelines natin, it enumerates all the benefits na kailangang ibigay sa ating BPO employees, especially in maintaining their health po. So yun po ang ating occupational safety and the health. It mentions about ergonomics, providing the right facilities for our workers, especially for lactating mothers. Since most of us nasa graveyard shift po, they are also, or they should be provided with sleeping facilities. So these are just some of the conditions po under the policy guidelines. And I'd like to take this opportunity to also quickly lang inform our workers sa BPO that we have what we call the Employees Compensation Insurance Fund. Aside from SSS, kung nagkakasakit po tayo, may injury, or unfortunately namatay po ang worker, or nag-retire, we get something out of our SS membership. But aside from that, we have the Employees Compensation Insurance Fund. So this is only for illness, injuries, or death na work-connected po. So they provide loss of income benefit, may medical benefit, may rehab benefit, even ang carers po, yung nag-aalaga ng those who are undergoing rehabilitation, meron pong additional carers allowance. And of course, we have death and funeral benefits. Okay, next po, on the aspect of discrimination and harassment. So this one is very significant. We report earlier that still there are instances of harassment and discrimination in the workplace. So for the information of everyone, as mentioned kanina po ng ating isang resource person, before, women workers were not allowed to work as night workers. But eventually, Congress realized that this is disadvantageous to our female workers, and they enacted RA 10151, which finally allowed employment of women night workers. So to level off the playing field, pwede na po ang babae, since this law was enacted early 2000, pwede na po tayo mag-join sa BPO industries and other industries that requires night work. But aside from allowing women workers to be part of the night workforce, marami pa pong benefits ang nilagay sa batas na ito to protect women workers, especially those po na pregnant women workers who work at night. We have so many benefits under this law, especially provision of health facilities. Next, on discrimination against women employee solely on account of her sex. So, reminder, especially for those working sa management side po, our labor code clearly provides that we cannot discriminate our workers solely on account of her sex. When we say solely on account of her sex, it means yung tinitingnan lang natin is babae siya. Therefore, babae siya, hindi siya napopromote, babae siya, hindi siya binibigyan ng training opportunities, study and scholarship grants solely on account kasi babae siya. Especially kung mag-aasawa siya, mabubuntis siya, magli-leave pa siya. So according to the labor codes, labor code discrimination against women employees again is a violation of the labor code and bawal po. Next po, this is one of my favorite provisions under the labor code. Stipulation against marriage of women employee. So do you know that under the labor code, there is a provision which states that it is unlawful for an employer to require the female worker that as a condition of her employment or continuation of employment, hindi siya pwedeng mag-asawa. Or if there is a stipulation expressly or may agreement sila na kapag mag-asawa si female worker, resigned na siya or separated na siya from work. We have very rich jurisprudence on that, but that can be discussed for another topic or another time. And Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, which was fairly complemented by Safe Spaces Act of 2018. So remember po, yung the classic concept of sexual harassment is there should be moral ascendancy, may authority sa perpetrator over the victim. But through the Safe Spaces Act of 2018, marami pong na-complement na pagkukulang sa Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. For example po, even though walang moral ascendancy ang perpetrator, even though parehas kayong rank and file worker, or if the perpetrator is mas mababa ang rank, the victim is someone na mas superior, hindi po tinitingnan ng Safe Spaces Act yung moral ascendancy. As long as harassment has been committed, and I'd also like to inform everyone na yung harassment po pwede nang makommit through communication technologies. Texting, mga social media posts, messaging, sending photos via ICT, covered na po ito sila ng Safe Spaces Act. Hindi lang po yung mga bastos sa street, kaya nga bawal bastos law. Even yung mga harassment in parang modern forms of harassment, covered na po ng Safe Spaces Act. And lastly po, I'd like to end with work arrangement in the pandemic period. So, do you know that even before the pandemic, kahit papano, we already have policies that somehow prepared us or laid down the grounds for flexible work arrangement or alternative work arrangement, as we call it in the government. So as early as 2009, the DOLE, the department already issued an guidelines on adoption of flexible work arrangement. Pwede po. For example, is compressed work week, flexible work arrangement. It depends po between the agreement ng workers and management. And lastly po, yung medyo bago pa rin, the Telecommuting Act of 2018. So before the pandemic, the Congress enacted this law. So sabi po sa Telecommuting Act, the management and the workers may agree, they may offer a telecommuting program to its employees on a voluntary basis. So in this telecommuting program or agreement, pwede pong mag-agree si management and workers na si worker sa bahay na lang muna magtrabaho. Okay, as long as the nature of the industry or the establishment allows such work arrangement. And there are so many conditions under the telecommuting program. But I'd like only to emphasize on one point, ang pinaka-importante po. If a worker avails of this telecommuting program or agreement, sabi po sa issuance ng DOLE, there should be fair treatment. So the workers who are enjoying or who availed of the telecommuting program, hindi po siya dapat na discriminate as to monetary and non-monetary benefits. And dapat bigyan pa rin siya ng same consideration as to promotion, training, career development opportunities as compared to workers na nagre-report po sa employer's premises. And lastly po, in relation to telecommuting po, like what I emphasized last time, for those who are availing still of the work from home arrangement, take note, may karapatan pa rin po tayong mag-avail ng ating leave benefits. It doesn't mean that we are working from home na hindi na po natin kailangang mag-leave. We can still avail of our sick leave or vacation leave benefits. So I think yun lang po ay, I'll take this opportunity na lang po. So yung opisina po natin, all the RTWPBs all over the country, they conduct their own webinar series. So for example, our office, March 30, we have our webinar, Work Ethics of a Productive Worker. And on April 20, Values for Smarter and Productive Workplace. So kung saan man po kayong region, maybe you can check the website of your RTWPB office and you can avail of their services doon po sa region niyo. So yun lang po, Ms. Jada. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Attorney Kay. Okay, here's another reminder. If you have questions or thoughts, especially on what Attorney Kay presented and discussed, don't be shy to leave a note in the chat box. Okay, the Q&A box is different from the chat box. If you are on your laptops, the Q&A box is in the lower middle of your screen. If you are on your Androids, it is on the upper right of your screen, the Q&A box. There's a Q&A box right there, okay? If you are on your iPhones and Macs, guys, you're on your own. I don't know. You can figure it out. Okay, but send in your questions on the Q&A box and or the chat box. You're more than welcome to do both. Now, our next speaker will discuss policy initiatives and recommendations that support women. We have with us this afternoon the Deputy Director from the Philippine Commission on Women. Let's all welcome Christine C. Balmes. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Hi, VJ Jada. Good afternoon. Good afternoon from our colleagues from the government, the BPO industry, to Oxfam, and to everyone present here today. We are very grateful for this opportunity to share the Philippines' initiatives to recognize and value women's vital role in the care economy. Can I ask someone to please share my screen? There. Still loading. Okay. Next slide, please. Yes. So prior to the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic, women and girls globally have already been bearing the heavier burden of unpaid care and domestic work. In the report of the Philippine Institute of Development Studies, or PIDS, in 2019, it showed that across their life cycle, females spend a disproportionate amount of time on unpaid home production. This includes childcare, elderly care, and housework, which males spend about twice as much time on paid market work. So this was corroborated by the recent National Household Care Survey on unpaid care and domestic work in times of COVID-19 conducted by Oxfam in 2021. Hello, Miss Leia. I saw you're in the chat box. So which revealed that while men share the load, women still dominate all care activities. Next slide, please. So unpaid care and domestic work traditionally is done by women is critical to the functioning and well-being of families and societies. Various estimates value women's unpaid work to be worth at least 2 trillion pesos or 40 billion US dollars, so 20% of our country's GDP. And the PID study further outlined potential non-monetary contributions of care work that go beyond financial valuation, such as child schooling outcomes, suggesting how home production activities are actually investments towards a higher quality household. Next slide, please. Well, yet our policymakers have historically overlooked this kind of work, and it has gone unmeasured in official national accounts. The unequal distribution of unpaid care and domestic work affects women's and girls' rights to education, economic participation, as well as rest and leisure activities. It reduces their productivity and increases likelihood of employment in low-paid, part-time, and informal work. Internationally, the value of unpaid care and domestic work has been given more emphasis. The Sustainable Development Goals include SDG Target 5.4, which is to recognize and value unpaid care and domestic work through the provision of public services, infrastructure, and social protection policies, and the promotion of shared responsibility within the household and the family as nationally appropriate. And at the 19th International Conference of Labor Statisticians in 2013, labor statisticians agreed to begin measuring all types of work, both paid and unpaid, in labor force surveys, presenting a challenge for national statistical agencies to develop reliable, comparable, and simple measures of unpaid household and care work. Next slide, please. So, as shared by one of our speakers earlier, recognizing, reducing, and redistributing unpaid care and domestic work is one of the Philippine government's priorities as part of our commitment to address multiple and intersecting factors that limit women's and girls' rights, to eliminate all forms of discrimination against women and girls, and to promote rights to education and decent work. This commitment is even more important in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has provided both an added burden and a unique opportunity for the care economy. Currently, there are ongoing discussion series with concerned government agencies and CSOs through the BRAVE project, which is a collaboration initiative of Oxfam, PKKK, and PCW. So the BRAVE project, which stands for Building Constituency for the Recognition and Valuing Women's Work for Care Economy, aims to provide a platform where government and CSOs can collaborate and share insights and recommendations for coordinated policy actions on recognizing and valuing care work. This convergence hopes to gather significant inputs that are essential to develop convincing narratives for policies that address unpaid care and domestic work and the care economy in general. Next slide. So despite the absence of official data and laws on determining the value of unpaid care work, there have been initial efforts done by some of our government agencies and non-government organizations to help address the issue of unpaid care work along the 5R strategy. So on recognition of the value of unpaid care work, the Philippines has conducted studies and time-use surveys, including early attempts in 1998 and the stylized time-use survey in 2019 to incorporate the disaggregated contribution of women and men in national accounts and the value of unpaid home production, although these were not officially adopted as part of our country's system of national accounts. More recently, our commitment to SDG Target 5.4 is translated in the Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022, where generation of data on unpaid care and domestic work is included as a part of the strategy to accelerate human capital development. So the Philippine Statistics Authority is also part of the ILO project on methodological studies to develop new guidelines on the new concept of Work to measure both paid and unpaid work. And the Philippine Commission on Women conducted a survey to assess the immediate effects of COVID-19 on our women micro-entrepreneurs through our Great Women Project. Aside from financing and market matching activities and e-commerce training, the study showed that access to child support services was one of the resources needed by women entrepreneurs to recover from the pandemic. I saw Miss Lenlen Messina in the list of participants, and I think we have discussed this with UN Women already. So there have also been efforts to seek to reduce the multiple burdens so that women enjoy equal opportunities in education, economic activity, and other endeavors of their choosing. The Department of Agriculture and the Department of Science and Technology continue to develop innovative equipment and technologies that are gender responsive and women friendly. The Department of Social Welfare and Development has been implementing the Kalahi Seeds project, which is community-driven integrated development social services that organizes women and trains them in planning, establishing, and maintaining water systems, which is women's housework. And the Filipino Women CEO Circle has sponsored scholarships for grandmothers from indigenous cultural communities to be trained in India to put their solar panels, an alternative and renewable source of energy, in their remote communities. Of course, we have already heard on the Dole's contribution. Next slide, please. At the policy level, we have several laws attempting to redistribute unpaid care and domestic work, such as the Family Code of 1987, which provides for rights and obligations of parents, stating that the spouses are jointly responsible for the support of the family. The Republic Act 7192, or the Women in Development and Nation Building Act of 1992, provides that married persons who devote full-time to managing the household and family affairs shall, upon the working spouse's consent, be entitled to voluntary social security at the private or public system and contribution to provident funds. So the contributions due thereon can be deducted to the salary, of course, of the working spouse. So the expanded maternity leave law, which was discussed by the speaker from Dole, I'm not gonna expound on it anymore. And we also have a law for the total development and protection of children aged 0 to 6 years old by establishing daycare centers in all barangays or villages, or the RA 6972. But we all know that this needs further revision since our daycare system is more academic than really taking care of the children. And the Philippine Commission on Women also encourages government agencies to establish child-minding or daycare centers in their offices, chargeable, of course, to their gender and development budgets. Next slide, please. So lastly, in terms of laws, we have passed the Domestic Workers Law, which has transitioned these previously informal workers to formal by providing them health insurance and social security coverage, minimum wages, written contracts, and paid leaves, among others. And other cross-cutting initiatives also contribute to redistributing care work in our educational system. Teachers are being trained on gender fair education. Still, gender stereotypes are seen in textbooks, but these are being addressed through updating of their curriculum. If shared housework is inculcated early in life, we all know that unpaid care and domestic work can be redistributed. So the conditional cash transfer program, also led by the Social Welfare Development, includes as a condition attendance to monthly family development sessions where mother beneficiaries learn about gender equality, responsible parenthood, violence in the family and VAUSI, healthy living, relationships between husband and wife, ensuring the health of pregnant wives, HIV, AIDS, and other sexually transmitted infections. And we also have programs focused on the role of men and boys. First, the empowerment and reaffirmation of parental abilities, or ERPAT, is a program of the DSWD being implemented by local government units to help develop the capacity of fathers to accomplish their roles and responsibilities at home and in the society. And we also have the Katropa from the Population Commission, or PAPCOM, which is the kalalakihang tapat sa responsibilidad at obligasyon sa pamilya. This is focused on men's involvement in responsible parenting, family planning, and reproductive health, and the government commits to increase male engagement for the program, which has already more than 88,000 participants as of June 2020, including through digital platforms. Next slide, please. We would like to highlight that recognizing, reducing, redistributing the burden of unpaid care and domestic work requires holistic approach with strong collaboration among government and private stakeholders. And further, we cannot emphasize enough the need for more data to show that the care economy contributes to our economies and to society's development and well-being. We mentioned earlier that the COVID-19 pandemic is both an added burden and a unique opportunity. School closures and lockdown measures have significantly compounded the care and household work performed by our women and girls, but there is evidence in some countries that COVID-19 may be prompting men and boys to help out more in the home. So we hope to shine a light on women's invisible burden, which has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 and ultimately influenced response and recovery efforts that are responsive to their needs. While we have a deeply rooted recognition of the unpaid care work of women and girls in the Philippines, we have yet to provide evidence-based policies and programs that will chart coordinated actions among the government, the civil society, and the private sector in reducing and redistributing unpaid care work. Therefore, we recommend the following. First, make unpaid care and domestic work visible through research, time-use surveys, and other appropriate methods. Strengthen collaboration with relevant government agencies, including national statistics agencies and labor departments, to prioritize valuation of care work. Provide opportunities for women and men to participate in the labor force while performing care work through paid leaves and the alternative work arrangements, among others. Involve private stakeholders and civil society, especially women's groups, in crafting initiatives to recognize the care economy. Address the root causes of inequality through education, especially to combat harmful gender stereotypes and gender bias. And lastly, provide a platform for men and boys to expand their roles in family and community building. Building back better after the pandemic must also mean that care work, which society is so dependent upon, does not solely fall on the shoulders of us, women and girls. We call for stronger political will and concrete action to value women's and girls' time and effort invested in the well-being of each family, household, and the community. Again, happy Women's Month to everyone, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Deputy Director Christine. We are going to see you later in our open forum. But before we do that, let us all welcome, to give us a message, is the Director of Influencing Gender Norms and Investing Women. Let's all welcome Ms. Armina Nazir. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jada, and good afternoon to you and to everybody. Thank you so much to Oxfam for organizing this event and convening, these illustrious stakeholders, all of you here today, and key policy officials. Specifically, I'd like to thank, of course, Senator Sani Angara for his video message and support, and then the really illuminating presentations from Attorney Maria Ronette Campo and Deputy Director Christine Balmers. It's just fantastic to see, the policy environment and the legal frameworks that exist to support workers, and specifically the gender lens that has been taken. So we can see there is so much progress. I'd like to just give you a few words about investing in women and our relationship with Oxfam. Naturally, I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of Investing in Women. We are an initiative of the Australian government, and we aim to catalyze economic growth through ensuring women's economic empowerment in Southeast Asia. That, of course, includes the Philippines, but also Indonesia, Vietnam, and Myanmar. You know, we tackle one of the most critical social and economic issues of our time, which is gender inequality. Women's economic empowerment is not only a fundamental aspect of promoting gender equality, but it's also vital to enhancing business competitiveness, fueling inclusive economic growth, and building equitable and just societies in general. So for Investing in Women, we use innovative approaches to improve women's economic participation, both as employees and entrepreneurs. And we do this in several different ways, some of which I think you already are familiar with. We support business coalitions who work with influential businesses and private sector on strengthening the workplace cultures, practices, and policy, because these often are what are creating the barriers to achieving true workplace gender equality. We also partner with impact investors and ecosystem builders to expand market opportunities for women, because we have this view, you know, to incentivize and strengthen access to capital for small and medium enterprises. You'd be aware that it is quite difficult and challenging for women to access capital in an equitable way. So we want to support this and ensure that the SMEs are led by and responsive to the needs of women. And last but not least, part of what we've been talking about today and our work with Oxfam is trying to positively shift those socially held attitudes and practices that hinder and limit women participating fully in the world of work. You know, although women's economic empowerment is just such a crucial driver for economic prosperity, and we all acknowledge that, you've heard a lot about it today as well, the progress has been held back by these norms, these gender norms, which continue to restrict women and men to very specific roles at home and in the workforce. So our aim is to normalize women's role in the economy and to promote men's role at home. And you've seen already there's a little bit of a shift happening in Oxfam's research. They referred to some changes in terms of people's attitudes about women working and how that care role can be better shared amongst men and women both. We collaborate with local partners to experiment, to evaluate, constantly learn and adapt, and then build on the approaches that show evidence of success for shifting gender norms in order to expand women's economic opportunities. So research is therefore a really key foundation of our approach, and this is a really significant piece of research that has been undertaken by Oxfam with our support. And they've, in general, Oxfam has been a really great fit for partnership with IW's aims, given their focus on unpaid care work, the fact that this is obviously often relegated to women, and the relevance of the initiative to showcase positive examples of how gender norms shifts are happening during the time of COVID-19. Crisis can create a lot of regression, but they can also sometimes provide opportunities and some positive examples that we can highlight and try to promote the message of shifting those norms around women's equal economic opportunities. The findings from Oxfam's research actually complement other previous research supported by IW and external research that we've read, which indicates that the majority of women, around 89%, and men, 81%, report having more responsibility since COVID-19 at home for housework and or caring for children and other relatives. So we would really like to recognize, in conclusion, how Oxfam has used these findings from the extensive baseline research to design relevant campaigns that address the gaps and some of these key issues. Your campaign was able to achieve a reach of more than 37 million, so well done. That is really extensive. Well done for casting such a wide net to your target audience with messages that highlight those positive examples of how couples may effectively negotiate and share household work. IW also recognizes Oxfam's effort to directly engage participants through webinars like this one today, as we've seen, with really great participation. and most importantly, also via the care sessions they've held. I dropped into one about a week or two ago, which is really interesting to listen to people and see the discussion that was happening. And these allow Oxfam to further the discussion in general of gender norms alongside unpaid care work. So there's a very strong and close link. Investing in women is wrapping up. We're nearly at the end of our program. Our end date is around June 2023. So obviously at this stage, we are really encouraging our partners, specifically Oxfam in this case, to continue your work. We really hope that you do continue your work to positively affect the systems that can create an enabling environment for shifting gender norms and addressing issues such as those that have been outlined in your research. From our side, we'd like to highlight two particularly interesting and important products or results, I guess we could call them, outcomes from your work, which would be great to see sustained and continue on, despite the fact that, IW is wrapping up. We hope you sustain the Facebook page. I think it's been really successful, a Home Squad PH, as this leaves a community of voices that would continue the work of challenging gender norms beyond any of us. And the care sessions also have a real potential to create a positive change. And we'd be happy to hear how this can be scaled up and replicated to potentially reach even more companies and employees. Once again, on behalf of the entire IW team, I'd like to thank you and pass my congratulations to Oxfam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zarmina. And with that, we let you go. But if you have questions for Zarmina, please put them on the Q&A box and we'll be sure to send it to her. Okay, I'm sure you have questions for Zarmina as well. And now it's time for our open forum. Feel free to open your notes. Feel free to type up on our Q&A box as we call back our speakers. Mr. Randy Cabastes of Oxfam Pilipinas, Attorney Kay of Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board, and Deputy Director Christine of the Philippine Commission on Women. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming back on the screen. So now we are ready for our first batch of questions. Wait, let me open the Q&A box. Okay, so everybody understands Filipino. I don't need to translate anything to English. Okay, same thing with our participants. Okay, anonymous attendee. What if the client is non-Filipino but does business in the Philippines and discriminates an applicant by not pushing through with the hiring upon learning that the successful applicant is pregnant through pre-employment medical exam? Where and how to file for complaint? I think this is based on a true story. I mean, this question, who can answer?
Hello? Ako na lang po.
Yes, ma'am.
Galing po sa,
Okay,
sa topic.
go ahead.
Thank you for the question po. Although I have to qualify that the labor code provisions and jurisprudence only applies to Filipino workers. But let's tackle na lang yung question. Actually, I asked a follow-up question doon sa tanong niya for me to give a more sound answer. But anyways, based lang sa facts na binigay po sa atin ng anonymous attendee, well, unfortunately po, yung provision natin on stipulation against marriage and discrimination only applies if there is already employer-employee relationship. Okay? So when we say po there is employer-employee relationship, it means hired na po si worker. On that line po, let me just explain a little bit of the concept of management prerogative po. So under our law, based on jurisprudence din po, the management or the employer has management prerogative. It means may karapatan po siyang mag-lay down ng certain policies as to hiring ng workers. So I'm just basing my answer as to the available law. So in this situation po, if the management did not hire the worker on the ground na pregnant siya, for whatever reason, hindi po natin alam, maybe it's because for their consideration, hindi natin alam kung ano yung type of work, maybe it's not suitable or hindi para hindi makabubuti doon sa pregnant na women. We don't know. But anyways, what I'm saying is, yung management prerogative po, general rule, the management can lay down their own policies. But the limitation is, if may labor code provision na po na violate, doon na po papasok si labor code. But in this case po, hindi pa kasi na-hire si worker. So the Anti-Marriage and the Discrimination Act under the labor code will only apply if there is employer-employee relationship. Yun
Okay.
po, Ms. Jada.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Attorney K. Now, there are
Jada?
questions
Yeah.
here. Yes,
Yes.
Deputy Director.
I don't know lang, but there is a provision under Section 23 of RA 10354, otherwise known as the Reproductive Act of 2012, na pregnancy or the number of children shall not be a ground for non-hiring or termination from employment, and violation of which is punishable by imprisonment ranging from 1 month to 6 months, or a fine of 10,000 pesos to 100,000 pesos, or both such fine and imprisonment. Because I am not a lawyer, but I am not sure if this is actually already being used as grounds for non-hiring of pregnant women. But as Attorney K said, this only applies to local employers and not foreign employers.
Thank you for
Okay,
that info,
so-
Ma'am Christine.
Thank you so much, Attorney K and Ms. Christine. So I hope our anonymous attendee, he or she was satisfied with both your answers. So let's continue with our questions. What is the relevance of this research, and how do you think that if at times with the celebration of International Women's Month, how will it continue in breaking the bias in the workplace? I think this question is for Sir Randy.
Some of our findings with regards to norms in the workplace still point to, as we've said earlier, presence of discrimination against women. For instance, in terms of the roles being assigned to women, the job descriptions, in terms of promotion to managerial or leadership positions. So that's why we're in our call to action, where one of our key action points was really to have or to promote a review of the job descriptions that we have currently in our BPO firms, and find ways to really achieve some kind of gender equality or balance in terms of hiring employees in the BPO sector, and also provide more opportunities for women to be promoted or to advance to managerial posts, leadership posts. This would, in our view, would really help to make our middle management ranks in the BPO sector more diverse. And as pointed out also by our respondents in the survey, this provides really more inputs to management, to BPO firms, more ideas, more diversity in ideas, more inputs, which in contrast to the current situation where there might be some gender imbalance in terms of more men being represented in this leadership position.
So Randy, I think you already discussed these things in your presentation, but it was still asked by our attendees. They want to know the profiles of the respondents involved in the research and the highlights of the research as well, plus the challenges that you encountered in doing the research.
Yeah, most of our respondents were from Metro Manila. We originally targeted 3 urban centers in the country. That included Metro Cebu and Metro Davao, but unfortunately, we're not able to really get more respondents outside of NCR. Most of our respondents were female, and then also most were unpartnered, though we got a significant proportion also with spouses or partners. The key challenge was really getting BPO employees to respond to our surveys. Most were, as you know, still working at unholy hours, and they really don't have much time during the day to respond to our questionnaire. Luckily, we had some help or support from the management teams of our partner BPO firms, who really referred our research to their employees. Also, we need to mention BN, our partner employees group, who also promoted the research, the survey among their members, as well as LCTC in Leyte. It's a telecommunications group that facilitates hiring of young people into BPO firms. So they included the research in their recent activities in terms of facilitating the hiring of young BPO workers.
Thank you, Sir Randy. Now, for our next question, I think this is going to be a combined answer from Attorney Kay, from DD Christine, and Sir Randy. Are there plans to partner with government institutions to make use of these data? Let's go with DD Christine first.
Well, actually, I was supposed to ask Sir Randy for a copy of the results of this research because I chair. Currently, I am acting as the chairperson of the Interagency Committee on Gender, Youth, and Children's Statistics. This is in partnership with the Philippine Statistics Agency. And I think your study will be very helpful for us to, well, for the future statistics that the PSA board will be collecting. Maybe we can include some of the outcomes of your research in as inputs to the data collection forms that they will be using in the future, because we just approved the data collection instruments for the upcoming NDHS, and we already have proposed we have seek the approval of the PSA board on some of the indicators that we wanted to be part of the upcoming surveys conducted by PSA. But please do share your the result of your study with us. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much, DD Christine. Now, Attorney Kay.
Na-pressure ako dun how to use the
Slight,
data. So actually
slightly
po,
pressuring.
we will wait for the copy po of the data. Kasi naman yung office namin, our concern is minimum wage and productivity. So, yun nga lang, we have a mother agency. Aside from DOLE, we still have the National Wages Productivity Commission. Maybe if the information and the data will be shared to them, this can also be used probably for future partnership and in designing po yung future modules on productivity. Because I think gender and productivity, kailangan may gender lens din po yung productivity na topic po natin. Yun lang po, Ms. Jada. You will wait for the copy of the study po.
Okay, thank you so much, Attorney Kay. Sir Randy,
Yes,
are there any government institutions that are, we are partnering with right now making use of the data?
Yeah, a good thing that Ma'am Christine mentioned PSA. We've been really talking to PSA in the past, not only with regards to our National Household Care Survey, but really on the possibility of integrating some of our survey questions into their regular census and survey activities during the year. Perhaps another opportunity is being offered also by the recent promulgation of the implementing rules and regulations of RA 11315 or the Community-Based Monitoring System Act. So this would refer to the data gathering that is being done by our local government units, which should guide their planning and budgeting processes at the local level. So there's really that great space or opportunity to also promote and integrate our data gathering around care work at that level. So, yeah.
Okay, now that you have spoken last, Sir Randy, may tanong ulit sa'yo. What is the next step after the research? How will Oxfam continue to the project to make sure that not just see changes, but actually feel them?
Yeah, talking about changes immediately in the horizon, since the campaign will be ending soon, we are already in the planning stage in doing our final project evaluation. So that would mean another data gathering process and comparing the results with our baseline to really assess the change that has happened in terms of influencing norms, influencing beliefs and attitudes of the millennial workers in the BPO sector that we were able to reach through our campaign.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Randy. There's a question here, perhaps, but you answered this a while ago. Perhaps you didn't hear from Ruben Pio Martinez. What are the limitations that the researchers faced when gathering data from respondents? You answered this a while ago, but he probably wants to hear it again.
Really getting more respondents. No, we were initially targeting for around 480 plus respondents, which we believe was a statistically significant sample for given our population in the BPO sector. But unfortunately, we were not able to reach that figure. So we had to settle with around 232 respondents. So really the difficulty of getting BPO workers to respond. Plus also given the fact that we were only targeting a certain sector within that population, the younger workers, the millennials, what we call the millennials. So really restricted to a certain age range.
Okay, thank you so much, Sir Randy. And I guess that's all we have for now. But I'm sure there will be questions popping up. Don't worry, to our attendees, you can still send your questions and we will send them to our speakers. And before we let you go, ladies and gentlemen, any words to our attendees? Attorney K, all the way from Region 8.
Hello po. Good evening. Thank you for inviting us again po. And Miss Leia, we hope sana po mag-intertwine na yung productivity and gender. Maybe in the future po, medyo promising siguro. Yun lang po. Magandang gabi po from Eastern Visayas. Happy Women's Month.
Thank you so much, Attorney K. Happy Women's Month. And take care wherever you are right there. And of course, Deputy Director Christine, any words to our attendees?
Well, thank you for all the participants for staying even at this hour. I would like to thank, of course, yung mga partners namin. We are always working with investing in women. Syempre, Oxfam. Favorite ako ni Leia. And all of those who are working with us, I really appreciate na we get to work to achieve a single goal, which is to have gender equality and women's empowerment. Attorney Kay, pwedeng mag-provide ng PCW ng technical assistance para ma-connect natin yung sinasabi mong hindi mo ma-connect sa gender para magamit nyo rin yung God plan and budget nyo.
Yes po.
Sulat lang kayo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Christine. And Sir Randy.
Yes, maraming salamat po sa lahat ng dumalo ngayong gabi. Again, nagpapasalamat po kami dun sa lahat ng tumulong sa pagsasagawa ng aming baseline research sa WAGI na kinomission namin to conduct the research, and the other BPO partners who really help us recruit respondents for the survey and participants for the FGDs. So to all millennials who are viewing the webinar right now, we hope you continue supporting our campaign in the coming months. And please visit our website, Home Squad PH. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all those who sent in those questions. Thank you so much, Attorney Kay. Thank you so much, Deputy Director Christine. Thank you so much, Sir Randy. Now, the action research provides evidence to amplify the message on addressing gender norms. This initiative is in partnership with Oxfam and Investing in Women, together with our research experts team from WAGI and Mandip Karanu, with the support of partners PKKK, OCI, Leyte Communications Training Center. And of course, like I said a while ago, there wasn't a quiz, but there was a raffle that happened. There's an online raffle, and the package is a care package. The raffle prize is a care package, grocery pack, and care work supplies, and some relaxation kit for our winners. And we will announce it by sending you a message via email from our event organizers with details about claiming your prizes. Okay, so congratulations to all our winners. Robbie Alugar of RMA News, Ben Martinez of Yahoo News, Wilmay Lalog of Bien, Michelle Alsola Epiz of Child Rights Network Philippines, Joanna Cortina of UP Department of Women and Development Studies. So there you go. Don't forget, you will receive a message via email from our organizers, and along with the details of how you can claim your prizes. And with that, I hope the last 2 hours were both informative and enjoyable. A lot of you were nodding your heads, probably, even if you were not on cam, agreeing, disagreeing, having questions in your head. And if you haven't joined our Facebook group yet, we are inviting you to go look for Home Squad PH. Once again, it's Home Squad PH. And on behalf of Oxfam Pilipinas and Investing in Women, thank you very much and have a great Tuesday evening. Bye.